Prince of Persia, Sands of Time.
So we just saw Prince of Persia, which is the story of a prince in Persia, whose kingdom attacks this mystical town with a magical dagger, which is never, ever explained in any way. And then they do this big quest to go after the guy who killed the king because
he's looking for the Sands of Time. And in the end, they find him and they stab the Sands of Time, and time goes backwards, and he ends up in the beginning of the movie, and then it ends.
I kind of had high hopes for this movie at some point because it looks really well made. It's a pretty movie with like crazy set pieces and stuff like that, but it's just exposition. It's a 2-hour movie, and like 90% of that movie is spent explaining the movie, and the other 10% is back and forth between the prince and the princess. And then you have this magical dagger, which in a video game you can just take as a given. It's like, all right, it just turns back time, no problem. That's just how the game works. But in the movie, you're like, explain, how does this thing work? You're explaining everything else. How about you explain the thing that the entire movie's about? It turns back time, but how? If the user's aware of how time turns back, then shouldn't they not be affected by the time travel? But if he's cut across the chest, then that heals when he goes back in time, which means his body goes back in time, but why doesn't his brain? And the dagger always has exactly as much sand as it needs to have to last whatever scene, and then immediately runs out so that people who have the dagger can conveniently be captured again.
Imagine Aladdin without Robin Williams. It was kind of the same thing. Arab people doing weird things, magic's involved.
The bad guy even looks like Jafar.
Sinister old guy. Somehow the end result is two people coming together and being happy. That was pretty much the whole movie. You could have taken the dagger out and you still would have had a basic Disney movie.
Every single character in the prince's family looks like they're from Rohan in Lord of the Rings, except the bad guy, the uncle with like the twiddly beard and the black eyeliner. It's like, Ben Kingsley, bad guy. Ben Kingsley, bad guy. Get it? Get it? Get it?
Action-wise, it was pretty much just the typical slashing stuff. The plot, it was just typical romantic comedy.
But even then, like, there's no real like romance. It's like they're stuck together and they hate each other for the first half of the movie. Then they are suddenly in love and they're making out. There's no transition. There's no like endearing moments like, oh, they helped each other in that one way, or like they had the one like really human moments. Like, no, they're like, they just suddenly love each other halfway through the movie.
I also never figured out why there are ostriches in Persia. I don't think that's their natural habitat.
Don't knock the ostriches. That was the only fun part of the entire movie, is those two people that existed with the whole ostrich thing. Like with the knife guy,
the fat guy and the black guy.
The fat guy, like, they're funny, and the black guy shuts the hell up.
Well, because like honestly, you could take it and look at it just like Aladdin. Like they're the monkey and the parrot. Yeah, like exactly.
Basically,
like they're the comedy relief.
And the fat guy, aside from one part where he talks about the ostriches, doesn't do any exposition. He's just there to like have like funny one-liners, and the black guy says like 2 things in the entire movie. It's so refreshing because no one else will shut the hell up in the entire film. This whole movie is about like 3 people like battling it out, like, oh, we were all fighting over this dagger, but before that whole thing happened, hundreds or thousands of people died, and the happy ending still has them dead, and the princess just seems okay with that. They kill a lot of people, but the prince was kind of sweet, so I'm gonna be okay with it.
I thought she was more bitchy about the fact that they stole the dagger,
which means like she's a horrible person. Everyone in this entire movie is either a horrible person or they're incredibly stupid. We're gonna hunt down Dastan because clearly he's like just dumb enough to murder his father in front of a room full of people, and no one will notice that he gave him. It's like, yeah, he did that on purpose. That's clearly not someone else's ploy to frame him, but let's not think about that. Let's just kill him immediately and his friend.
So if you're interested, watch Prince of Her and the Sands of Dur.